Kai Havertz to Arsenal Football Club. Arsenal Football Club are genuinely considering putting in a bid for Kai Havertz. Currently, the valuations don't meet, but if Chelsea have any sort of wiggle room with how they are valuing Kai Havertz, there is a chance that he could be an Arsenal player. Now, this fills me with joy. I am over the moon that Kai Havertz could be leaving Chelsea, and I am equally over the moon that he could be going to Arsenal because I don't rate him. There's a different conversation at stake here. Should Chelsea be strengthening Arsenal? I don't necessarily see it as strengthening them because I don't rate Havertz. But if Mikel Arteta does, maybe the principle should be that we don't do Arsenal any favours. But to subtract that from our rationale just momentarily, Chelsea getting Kai Havertz off the books, I am convinced is good news. I am over the moon that this could happen. And going to Arsenal, I just cannot, for the life of me, understand how Arsenal Football Club can see Kai Havertz as being the answer to whatever problems or questions that they currently need solved. I do not know what Kai Havertz would lend to that Arsenal squad that would improve them on any level. What does he take? What qualities does Kai Havertz take to Arsenal's squad that they don't already have in abundance delivered to them by better players? What does he bring? What is he better at than Gabriel Jesus? What is he better at than Martin Odegaard? What is he better at than Gabriel Martinelli? What can he do that other players in that squad can't do? Genuinely, help me try and rationalise this. If you're an Arsenal fan, if you are part of the Arsenal decision-making process here, what are you looking at in Kai Havertz and going, that's the man for us? You know, Arsenal launched a serious and sustained bid for the league title. It didn't go their way. They dropped just short, really. So, they will be looking to fill that chasm. How do they go that one step further? And they're linked with players like Declan Rice. That makes total sense to me. What on earth does Kai Havertz take to Arsenal that would help them close the gap on Manchester City? I honestly can't think of one thing that he contributes to their side that they don't already have in a better player. Height? Would it be that? The Arsenal front four, the way that Arteta likes to play, is that sort of effervescent, interchangeable front four. And there's no real obvious goal scorer because each of those four can score somewhere between, 10, 12, a dozen goals. We'll call it a dozen goals. Each of the front four, so Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, all score a dozen. Superb. If you were to put Kai Havertz there, what does he realistically bring? He's not as good a footballer as Martin Odegaard, not even close. He's not a better finisher than Gabriel Jesus, not even close. Not better on the left than Martinelli, not more direct. And I don't need to say a word about Saka, so nothing. Height being the only thing, it would potentially give Arsenal a different way to play. Maybe they could go long. But I'm saying that Kai Havertz is tall, but he's not particularly good in the air. People will tell you, oh, but he scores a lot of goals with his head. That's just not true. I mean, he scores a lot of goals in terms of the percentage of goals that he scores. I think he scores about 30% of the goals that he scored for Chelsea are scored with his loaf of bread. But that's just because he doesn't score a lot of goals. It's not that he's particularly good in the air. I think he gets out-jumped a lot. I think he gets out-muscled a lot. I think considering his stature and considering his size, he's quite underwhelming as a forward. I don't think that's his position at all. So I don't think he gives Arsenal a particularly different dimension. I don't think they can play a different way because you can't really rely on Kai Havertz to bring others into play. You know, if you're thinking that Kai Havertz is going to play with his back to goal and help his midfield runners bring them into the game, Niall Quinn, he ain't. So I don't really think that works. He's certainly not, a classic number 9. But you could, I suppose, on some level, add a bit of aerial presence. But generally speaking, I don't think that really works. So I'm trying to think of other reasons. Like, what else is he good at? I mean, he's Premier League proven. Like, if Arsenal were linked with Vlahovic, for example, there is jeopardy there. Could Vlahovic make it work in the Premier League? Maybe, but maybe not. With Kai Havertz, there is a track record of success-ish in the Premier League. He is Premier League tested. Whether you think he's passed that test, I think is more of a conversation. I would say that he hasn't. I honestly would. I don't think he's very good. I think Chelsea desperately need rid of Kai Havertz. And Chelsea apparently wants 70 million. We're not getting any bidders at 70. He's linked to Real Madrid as well. Just accept 50, accept 40. Just get rid of him because we're not going to build. We're not going to be a force with him anywhere near the team. Could he contribute to Arsenal? Could he play a certain amount of games, not starting, but just contribute to their season? Maybe. And he's versatile. Now, there's something. There's something that he could bring to the Arsenal team. Versatility. Premier League proven-ish. Premier League tested at least. And versatile. So he has the ability to play instead of Martin Odegaard. He also could play alongside Martin Odegaard. He could play instead of Gabriel Jesus. He could also play alongside Gabriel Jesus. So I suppose on that level, it would give Mikel Arteta options. So it would elevate the entire front line simply because it would be additional options. So I think versatility is something that he brings. Premier League proven-ish. He's young, 24, so there's potential, and Arsenal would have to buy that potential. I suppose he'd fit into being young. He'd fit into Arsenal's young culture at the club. Seems to be a very young, vibrant, exciting place for young footballers. So maybe he'd want to be part of that. Arsenal Football Club has become a bit of a destination, hasn't it? For young footballers to thrive. Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, Saliba, Declan Rice. I can see why that's appealing to him for similar reasons. Maybe Kai Havertz would want to be part of that. So that would be another reason why it would work. Maybe culturally it would work. But I really am struggling because I just can't see how it would fit. And I know that Mikel Arteta has proved a lot of people wrong, not just me, a lot of people wrong with his signings. I know that there have been some non-conformists among the Arsenal support that weren't particularly enthused when he signed Aaron Ramsdale, say. There were some naysayers even when he signed Jorginho. And that also worked out okay. So, although I certainly doubt this one, and I can't see a world where it would work, I think that, when he signed Ramsdale, it was scoffed at, and it worked out to be a really good signing. I think he's a top keeper, Ramsdale. Again, Jorginho was okay. Even Odegaard, when he signed, I'm using a very small case study here, but my cousin, who's an Arsenal fan, definitely preferred Maddison. He was definitely upset that Arsenal didn't go for Maddison when they went for Odegaard. So the signings, I think, have overall worked. And if Mikel Arteta believes that Kai Havertz is a good player for Arsenal, then it could well work. But if Mikel Arteta has deduced that he is a good player for Arsenal, there is also an argument that Chelsea shouldn't be doing Arsenal any favours. The principle. Something's happened in the Premier League now. We constantly just sell to one another. Like when I was a kid, that used to happen in Serie A. Like through the 90s, the Italian clubs was like, I found it amazing how many Italian players, top Italian players, would play for various different Italian clubs. That didn't really happen here. There'd be the odd exception, but generally speaking, it didn't happen. It seems to be happening more and more and more. And even between Chelsea and Arsenal in recent years. Petr Cech, David Luiz, obviously Jorginho, Willian. It's too much. So we'll have to see. This is a different one compared to the ones I just mentioned, though. Because this would be maybe the first who's kind of going into his prime. Whereas I think everybody would acknowledge that Cech and Willian and Jorginho were sort of past that. So we'll have to see. It's very exciting from my perspective here. I do want him to leave. But we have an issue. And the trouble is, everybody knows what Chelsea's issues are. It's so difficult for us to sell players because everybody knows that we have to sell footballers. We have a hugely inflated squad. We need to make some money. We are operating basically a one-in, one-out policy. And therefore, it's very much a buyer's market from Chelsea. So we have a dilemma with Kai Havertz because the potential buyers are so aware that we need to sell players. And because we're so desperate to sell players this summer, the prices really can be driven down. So we're not going to get anything like the 70 million. And he's only got 2 years left on his contract. So there is also the danger that he could end up a bit like Mason Mount. Give it in this time next year, he will be going to his final year where he won't sign a deal. So this could be the year to sell. And let's face it, he's attracted some very interesting conversations. Real Madrid and Arsenal. statements. How real the Real Madrid one would be, I don't know. I really don't know. I wonder if that's sort of cryptic manipulation from agents, because Real Madrid signing Bellingham linked with Kane, it just doesn't add up to me. But, it's Real Madrid, apparently, a couple of other clubs, Arsenal now monitoring developments. So there does seem a world where this could happen. And I suppose when you think about what Kai Havertz is, he's a footballer for Chelsea who's got 2 years left on his contract. He's a German international. He's a Champions League winner. He's scored the goal in Portugal to guide Chelsea to the European Cup. And therefore, maybe Chelsea's valuation of 70 sounds about right. 24 years old, maybe that does sound about right. It's just, it's not played on paper, is it? When I say those facts, it sounds like that's fair enough. But he's just such an uninspiring player. Such a frustrating player. I don't know if I've ever known a player who should have so much more quality. Well, I mean, he should deliver so much more quality. The quality is there. He's clearly a player there. He's clearly a good footballer. But in terms of what he delivers, it's just totally insignificant. He's never a threat. So, this, I believe, could happen. To Arsenal, though, I really didn't anticipate that happening. Let me know your thoughts. If you're an Arsenal fan, I would love to know where you sit on this. Would you like him at your club? If you would, I think you're missing the mark. But, if your manager believes in Havertz, who am I to argue? Thank you so much for watching. Would you please give this video a like and click the subscriber button? Thank you so much.